Joker. Folie, Deux, the much-anticipated sequel to Todd Phillips' 2019, Joker, is an audacious departure from its predecessor, blending psychological drama with a surprising musical twist. If the first film explored the descent of Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, into madness with a gritty, nihilistic edge, this second installment dares to spin the madness into a twisted spectacle, where narrative coherence takes a backseat to surreal musical sequences and psychological ambiguity. The first, Joker, left audiences polarized, particularly with its climactic moment, Arthur's brutal, live televised execution of talk show host Murray Franklin, Robert De Niro. This shocking moment, mirroring the real-life 1987 on-air suicide of Pennsylvania politician R. Bud Dwyer, sparked significant controversy. Phillips' appropriation of such a grim real-world tragedy to highlight Arthur's downward spiral was viewed by many, myself included, as a tasteless exploitation of real suffering for dramatic effect. This moment lingered in the cultural conversation, cementing the film's status as a lightning rod for debate about violence, media, and mental health. 5 years later, Joker, Folie, Deux, reopens Arthur's chaotic world. From the start, the film unapologetically announces its intentions by transforming the gritty underworld of Gotham into a bizarre musical stage. The decision to frame the film as a musical is bold, to say the least. And, to be fair, it's a decision that holds some internal logic. Arthur, a deeply disturbed individual with a fractured sense of reality, could very well imagine his life playing out like a twisted show tune. Here, the film explores the notion that Arthur, in his fragmented mental state, sees himself as the star of a demented performance. Yet, for all its daring, the film struggles to maintain coherence on both a narrative and psychological level. Musicals, by their nature, have a certain freedom to play with reality and structure. But even with that liberty, the film often feels disjointed and scattered. The juxtaposition of musical fantasy with Arthur's grim reality highlights the gulf between his delusions and the real world, but it also risks confusing the audience. While the original film was criticized for glamorizing violence through the lens of an edgy, anti-hero narrative, this sequel leans into its disarray with musical numbers that don't so much advance the plot as provide colorful, chaotic breaks from the bleakness. One of the film's key plotlines centers around Arthur's imprisonment in Arkham Asylum following the events of the first film. His bleak surroundings are occasionally punctuated by moments of musical fantasy, where Arthur and his fellow inmate, Lee Quinzel, Lady Gaga, share moments of song and spectacle. Gaga, portraying a character clearly inspired by Harley Quinn though never fully transformed into her iconic counterpart, is one of the film's few bright spots. Her portrayal of Lee Quinzel is layered, alternating between vulnerable and dangerously enraptured by Arthur's madness. The chemistry between Phoenix and Gaga is undeniable, with their duets serving as some of the film's more memorable moments. Arthur and Lee's relationship becomes the driving force of the film, with their romance unfolding within the confines of Arkham's cold walls. Lee, mysteriously granted the ability to attend Arthur's trial as a citizen, begins as a bystander but quickly gets pulled deeper into Arthur's delusions. Their relationship, as destructive and symbiotic as it is, provides the film's emotional core. However, as the story progresses, the connection between them starts to feel stretched, especially as the film veers into more absurd territory. Musicals, by nature, allow for a certain suspension of disbelief. But in Folie, Deux, the frequent breaks into song serve less as narrative tools and more as distractions from the film's lack of direction. Arthur's descent into full Joker mode culminates in a trial sequence that feels bloated and unnecessary. The film indulges in long stretches of courtroom antics, including Arthur's impersonation of a Southern lawyer, a moment that might have been amusing if it hadn't come after what felt like endless hours of watching Arthur unravel. Critics of the first Joker film who decried its nihilism will find little solace here. The film rehashes many of the same bleak themes: society's failure to address mental illness, the seductive pull of chaos, without offering much in the way of new insight. Phillips once again paints Arthur as a victim of circumstance, but this time the film tries to mask its lack of depth with genre experimentation. While the musical numbers may be fun to watch, they do little to advance the story or develop the characters beyond their established archetypes. Despite its flaws, Joker, Folie, Deux, does have moments of brilliance, primarily in the performances. Phoenix, as always, gives a masterful portrayal of a man consumed by madness. However, as the film drags on, his performance borders on self-indulgence. There are moments, particularly in the musical sequences, where Phoenix's commitment to the role becomes almost exhausting to watch. His signature Joker dance, which became iconic in the first film, reappears here but feels less like a menacing ritual and more like a hollow repetition. Gaga, on the other hand, manages to maintain a consistent presence throughout the film. Her vocals are strong, her acting compelling, and she brings a much-needed energy to the otherwise plodding narrative. Ultimately, Joker, Folie, Deux, is an experiment in form that doesn't quite land. Its ambition is commendable, but its execution leaves much to be desired. The film's lack of narrative coherence, combined with its relentless nihilism, makes for an exhausting viewing experience. While fans of Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker may find moments to admire, and Gaga's performance offers some relief, the film as a whole fails to justify its existence beyond being a strange genre exercise.